Have you ever felt that intimacy in relationship, though seemingly full of passion and connection, left you with a strange, unshakable emptiness, that something felt off, but you couldn't quite explain what? In today's video, we're going to expose one of the most dangerously misunderstood truths about narcissists, how they use sex not as an act of love, but as a calculated tool of control, a psychological manipulation strategy disguised as passion and closeness. This isn't just a story about emotional abuse. It's a journey of reclaiming your self-worth, uncovering the distorted truths hidden in toxic relationships, and awakening it to take back your emotional freedom. We'll dive deep into the subtle signs, the emotional spirals designed to keep you off balance, and why so many people don't realize they're being manipulated, even in their most intimate moments. Watch until the end to fully understand the narcissist's hidden system of control. And more importantly, to learn how to break free from it with clarity and strength. If you're searching for truth, healing, and the power to move forward, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video on this topic. Now, let's begin the journey of exposing the truth. Part 1, the dark side of intimacy. There's a brutal truth that few dare to confront. For the narcissist, sex is rarely, if ever, an act of love. It is not a sacred moment where two souls connect, nor is it a space for vulnerability or authenticity. Quite the opposite. It's a tool, a weapon, a carefully executed strategy in which you, with all your trust, longing, and unresolved wounds, become the chessboard. When you enter a relationship with a narcissist without understanding this reality, you're not just at a disadvantage, you're being exploited. The narcissist doesn't approach you with their heart. They approach you with their ego. And that ego doesn't seek love. It seeks control. They observe you closely. They quickly pick up on what you long for. A warm embrace, a knowing gaze, or moments of passionate surrender. But they don't do this out of love. They do it because they need you to be emotionally bound to them. Once pleasure and intimacy become neurologically linked to their image in your mind, they gain psychological leverage, an invisible chain that's frighteningly effective. In the hands of a narcissist, sex ceases to be a connection. It becomes synthetic magic, an illusion designed to confuse you between passion and love, desire and self-worth. They make you feel special, like you're the only one who's ever made them feel that way. But it's all the performance, because for them, genuine vulnerability is a threat, something they cannot afford. They don't open up, they act, and then slowly they start to drain you. Not all at once, bit by bit. You don't even notice you're losing your sense of safety. Why? Because you're still holding on to those special moments, the times they touched you like you were their entire world. But when intimacy lacks authenticity, you are not being loved, you are being conditioned. They give to control, and they withhold to control. This isn't love, it's behavioral programming disguised as closeness. Even more dangerous is what happens next. You begin to doubt yourself. When their intimacy becomes inconsistent, when you feel punished through silence or indifference, you don't see a tactic, you think it's your fault. You ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Was I too demanding? Am I still attractive? And so begins a dangerous cycle. You start adjusting yourself to win back what you thought was real, but you don't realize what you're trying to reclaim was never real. It was a tool, a hook. In the process, you lose yourself. You give more. You speak less. You sacrifice your boundaries to salvage a relationship you believed was love, but in truth, you're trapped in a sophisticated manipulation system where sex is only one part of a reward and withdrawal pattern. You become like a gambler in an emotional casino, always chasing that next hit of being loved again. And if you dare to face the truth, you'll see you're not crazy. That emptiness, that unease, that loneliness within physical closeness, it's not oversensitivity. It's your intuition screaming, something is wrong. And something is wrong, not with you, but with the way the narcissist has weaponized closeness. Not to build connection, but to dominate and extract. The narcissist knows this well. Sex is the fastest way to bypass your logic. It builds a false sense of closeness, opens the door to trust, and creates the illusion of bonding. But bonding is not love. It's the tether that keeps you in place when everything else begins to collapse. From the philosophical lens, this is a profound betrayal, not just of love, but of the sacredness of intimacy itself. When sex is reduced to a tool, it loses its sanctity. It's no longer the union of souls, but a transaction, a weapon. What once had the power to heal now causes harm. What once symbolized devotion now becomes exploitation. And what the narcissist doesn't want you to know is this: once you see the full picture, you stop playing the game. When you realize that their passion wasn't from the heart but from a playbook, you begin to detach. When you stop believing the illusion, their power vanishes. The only thing that ever kept them in control was the fog inside you. But once the light of truth shines in, their shadows have nowhere left to hide. Part 2, when intimacy becomes a trap. When you enter a relationship with a narcissist, there's something that's nearly impossible to detect at first. The way they manipulate your emotions using the very things you long for most. They don't force you. They don't threaten you. Instead, they do something far more insidious. They mirror you. They watch every movement of your soul with surgical precision. They learn the language of your heart, not to walk beside you, but to take possession of it. This behavior, known as mirroring, is not mere imitation. It's a calculated psychological strategy. The narcissist doesn't show up as themselves. They arrive as the perfect version of what you've been searching for: the ideal partner, the soulmate, the lover of your dreams. They make you believe you found your other half, not because they truly understand you, but because they've learned how to perform the illusion flawlessly. In the early stages, you're swept away by the uncanny sense of connection. How do they understand me so well? How can they share my exact interests, values, even my pain? These questions don't lead you to suspicion, they lead you to trust. And that's when the trap is set. The narcissist doesn't listen to you with their heart. They listen with an agenda. They remember every detail you share, the wounds you carry, the partner you dream of, the little things that move you emotionally. But they don't just pretend to be like you. They create a custom-crafted persona, a false soulmate engineered specifically for you. A synthetic connection designed to get past your defenses. You don't suspect them because they don't come at you, they become you. And when you feel deeply understood, truly seen, genuinely known, you open up. You trust. You hand over the most vulnerable parts of your heart. But what you think is deep connection is really just a distorted reflection of your own desires. And what's behind the mirror? There is no real person, only a manufactured identity, a mask designed to manipulate your feelings and ultimately gain control. Once a bond is secure, once you've emotionally, physically, and spiritually invested in this person, they begin to change. Gradually, quietly, but inevitably. The tenderness fades. The safety you once felt starts to disappear. And you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? Why does it feel so different now? You spiral in confusion, trying everything to get them back, but they never left. They're simply taking off the mask. The person you fell for never truly existed. This isn't a personality change. This is a reveal. And that is one of the most painful truths in escaping a narcissistic relationship, realizing that the person you loved, the one you thought was destiny, was never real. From a psychological perspective, this is advanced manipulation. It's not force, it's conditioning, not aggression, but seduction. The narcissist doesn't need you to love their real self because they don't have a stable self to offer. What they need is your reflection of the persona they constructed, because it gives them control, validation, and a false sense of identity. And that's what makes it dangerously addictive. You don't love them. You love the version of you they projected back at you. You love the illusion. And to preserve that illusion, you start losing your grip on reality. You rationalize toxic behavior. You excuse the changes. You blame yourself. Because if you don't, you'd have to face a much harsher truth, that the entire relationship was a performance. Philosophically, this is a profound betrayal of the concept of soul connection. When you believe you've been deeply understood, only to discover you were copied, you're not just hurt, you're invalidated. You were used as a blueprint to construct a counterfeit personality designed to manipulate. There was no resonance, only calculation. The narcissist mirroring isn't for connection, it's for control. Every word repeated, every emotion mimicked, every dream aligned, not to build love, but to seize emotional leverage. And once they have that power, they begin shifting the dynamic. They start testing boundaries, quietly changing the rules. And you, the one who once felt chosen, adored, and understood, now find yourself judged, restricted, and emotionally trained through conditioned responses. This isn't moodiness, this is truth, emerging through the cracks of the mask. And when you begin to awaken, when you look back and see that every synchrony was merely performance, that is the moment you begin to reclaim truth and reclaim yourself. Remember, you are not crazy for sensing something was off. You are not weak for being enchanted. You are human with a deep desire to be seen, to be known, to be loved. But someone took that sacred part of you and used it as a weapon of control. And what does the narcissist fear most? That you'll wake up, that you'll realize the mirror was never a soulmate. It was a manipulation device. And once you see it, you stop reacting. You stop chasing, you withdraw, not in anger, but in awareness. And that is the one thing they can never control. A soul that has seen the truth. Part 3, betrayal disguised as passion. When you begin falling in love with a narcissist, sex can feel like a magical experience. You might think, I've never felt so desired, or this is the deepest connection I've ever had. But what you don't realize in that moment is this. What you're feeling isn't true intimacy. It's an illusion, skillfully crafted to disarm your logic and bind your emotions. And the most heartbreaking part, while you're opening your heart, believing this is love, the narcissist is playing a power game with you as the pawn and them as the master manipulator. One of the most shocking truths survivors of narcissistic abuse eventually face is this. Sex, to the narcissist, isn't a form of connection. It's a tool of manipulation. In the beginning, they may shower you with intense passion, affection, and devotion. It makes you believe you're special, that you're the only one who can awaken something deep within them. But the truth is far more calculated. This is emotional conditioning, not heart-driven intimacy. The narcissist knows that sex can bypass your defenses, create a false sense of safety, and implant a dangerous belief they're the only one who truly understands me. But the reality is, they don't understand you. They're just performing. They manufacture closeness, not because they love you, but because they want to bind you to them. And once your brain starts associating pleasure, closeness, and emotional fulfillment with them, they gain a psychological weapon, one that requires no force, only access. You become more forgiving, more accommodating, and, most dangerously, more susceptible to control. Because now, whenever they withdraw, you don't just feel disappointment, you feel panic. You fear the loss of that emotional high. And so what do? You bend, you sacrifice, you negotiate your own self-respect, all in the hope of getting back to how things used to be. But what you don't know is that beginning was just bait. From this point on, the narcissist begins using sex as a reward or punishment. They withdraw affection without explanation, without warning. You're left questioning, did I do something wrong? Am I not attractive anymore? Should I change something about myself? And so you stop living in connection and start surviving in anticipation, constantly trying to be good enough to be loved, touched, desired again. Sex is no longer a sanctuary. It becomes a battlefield, a place where you're tested, punished, measured. And the worst part, you begin to believe it's your fault. You start thinking, if I were prettier, smarter, more agreeable, maybe they wouldn't be so distant. But that's exactly their intention, to make you question yourself, to make you chase them, to keep you too focused on self-blame, to realize they're controlling you through emotional scarcity. And just like that, you're pulled into a cycle of dependency, love, intensity, withdrawal, coldness, and a desperate attempt to reclaim what was lost. Every time you win them back, you feel like you've earned something, like your effort has been rewarded. But what you don't see is that you've become like a lab rat in an experiment, pressing the lever again and again for a treat, only this time the lever is their attention, and the treat is intimacy that has been completely corrupted. From a psychological perspective, this is a textbook case of intermittent reinforcement, conditioning behavior through unpredictable rewards. And it's terrifyingly addictive. Your brain becomes hooked on the emotional highs and lows. You stop being able to tell what's real and what's manipulation. All you know is that you need them to feel worthy, and once they've achieved that, they've won. But what the narcissist doesn't want you to know is this. You can break free from the cycle. When you start seeing the strategy clearly, you take back your ability to choose. When you realize that sex doesn't define your worth, You step out of the shame and self-doubt trap. When you understand that their withdrawal is a tactic, not an honest emotional reaction, you stop playing the I'm not enough game. And that is the first step toward freedom. You don't have to earn love by following their rules, because those rules were designed to keep you dependent. True love is not conditional. It doesn't require proof. It doesn't make you anxious every time you're not touched. Real love doesn't ration intimacy, and it certainly doesn't weaponize your body. When you begin to recognize these cycles for what they are, you'll see it's not passion, it's control. It's not love, it's manipulation. And you're not broken. You've simply been used through the very thing that makes you most human. You're longing for connection. So today, choose again. Choose to love yourself enough not to trade your worth for temporary affection. Choose to remain conscious in the face of emotional chaos. Choose to stop when intimacy is no longer sacred but a tool for domination. Because real love doesn't hurt you. It heals you, and you deserve that kind of love. Part 4. When sex is no longer love. One of the most disorienting moments for victims in a relationship with a narcissist is when they start to ask themselves, what happened? Where did that person go? The one who once felt so close, so passionate, so affectionate, suddenly becomes cold, distant, even contemptuous. And you, with a heart still full of memories of burning intimacy, begin to wonder, did I do something to cause this? Should I fix myself? But the truth is this, that person never truly existed. Everything you felt in the beginning, the connection, the understanding, the intimacy, wasn't the result of real compatibility. It was the outcome of calculated emotional manipulation. The narcissist created an ideal version of themselves based on you, what you wanted to hear, what made you feel seen, and most importantly, what caused you to let your guard down. They weren't giving you their authentic self. They were using you to construct a mask. When you fall in love with someone who reflects your own image, you don't realize that you're falling for an illusion. And when that illusion starts to fade, you're left confused. That's when the fog sets in, when you're trying to make logical sense of something irrational. Why the person who once made you feel so cherished now makes you feel invisible? This is the stage when the narcissist begins to shed their skin. They're no longer sweet, empathetic, or attentive. Instead, they start testing your limits. They withdraw affection. They shift expectations. They make you feel guilty for expressing normal human needs. And in your confusion, you try harder. You try to bring back the magic. You accommodate. You sacrifice. You blame yourself. But the truth is, the problem was never you. Their shift isn't a response to your flaws. It's the ending of the mask phase. And now, their true self, cold, hollow, manipulative, is coming to the surface. Understanding this shift isn't just about psychology. It's a journey of reclaiming your perception of reality. Because one of the most profound wounds narcissists leave behind isn't just emotional harm. It's a distortion of truth itself. You begin to question your own memory. Did I misread everything? Was it all in my head? Maybe they're just going through something. And slowly, you learn to silence your intuition just to preserve a relationship that no longer exists. From a philosophical perspective, this is the deepest betrayal, not just of promises, but of your belief in what was real. When you thought you were being loved for who you are, but you were really a temporary prop for someone who needed constant admiration to feel worthy, the pain cuts deeper than heartbreak, because you don't just lose them, you lose your sense of self in the process. Love, which should be the mirror where we find ourselves, becomes the place where we lose who we are. The narcissist doesn't love to connect, they love to extract. And they do it not with violence, but with weaponized affection. They build you a dream only to slowly transform it into a nightmare, just to see how much you'll tolerate. They don't need you to be happy, they just need you to stay. And the more confused you become, the more likely you are to remain. Because they know emotional chaos is a more powerful form of control than any threat ever could be. But when you begin to step back, when you zoom out and see the repeating pattern, idealization, then devaluation, then withdrawal, you're touching the edges of awakening. You realize this wasn't someone changing. This was a pre-designed cycle. The person you loved didn't disappear. They were never really there. They were playing a role. And when the performance ended, the stage collapsed, and you were left alone in the wreckage of your emotions. But even in that wreckage is an opportunity to rebuild yourself, not around someone else, but around the truth that you are worthy of love without condition, the truth that what you long for, intimacy, safety, connection, is not wrong. What was wrong was giving those sacred parts of yourself to someone incapable of receiving them. the truth that you're not weak for believing. You're courageous for daring to look back with clear eyes. And the narcissist never wants you to realize this, because once you see the mess for what it is, you stop chasing it. And when you stop not with resentment, not with pleading, but with calm clarity, they lose the only power they ever had, your unawareness. So the first step toward healing isn't demanding an apology. It isn't getting them to change. It's looking back with awareness from truth, not from emotion that was manipulated. And when you do that, you don't just escape them, you escape the entire system that once made you forget your worth. And that is the beginning of everything. Part 5, intimacy or manipulation. When someone pulls away from you, the heart's natural reaction is to seek answers. But when that person is a narcissist, the answers never come from truth, they come from manipulation. One of the most toxic strategies they use is the intentional withdrawal, not because they've lost interest, but because they're recalibrating the balance of power, from warmth to coldness, from closeness to indifference. No clear reason, no warning, just emptiness. And you, once lifted by intimacy, now find yourself crushed by their calculated silence. You think, maybe they just need space. You convince yourself, maybe I'm being too sensitive. You begin to pull back, lower your expectations, compromise, hoping things will return to normal. But what you don't know is this distance isn't a glitch, it's a tactic, a soft weapon with sharp edges. Because the narcissist knows once intimacy is withdrawn, you'll work harder to get it back. And the moment you begin chasing it, they gain control. This is something the narcissist understands better than anyone. Sex isn't just physical closeness. It's the language of self-worth, of acceptance, of feeling valued. When they take that language away, they don't just make you feel lonely. They make you start doubting yourself. Am I not attractive anymore? Did I do something wrong? Am I still worthy of love? And instead of recognizing the manipulation, you begin to edit yourself. This is when you fall into one of the most subtle traps of all, the cycle of trying to be loved again. You begin to do more, speak less, sacrifice more, soften more, not because you're weak, but because you're clinging to the memory of the sweetness you once experienced. You believe that if you're just good enough, if you adjust enough, you can bring them back to the version that once made you feel alive. But what you don't realize is, they were never that person. They only played that role. And once the role was done, they shifted into the next phase, control. In psychology, this is where intimacy is no longer withheld out of emotional disconnect, but used as emotional punishment. They withhold what you crave, not because they don't desire it, but because they want you to earn it. Every time you do something they don't like, they pull away. Every time you ask for something normal, they go silent. Every time you seek clarity, they respond with a hollow stare. And so you learn not to bother, not to ask for too much, not to be needy, all for a chance to be touched again. It's cruel, but this is how they train you. No yelling, no violence, just absence. Because narcissists don't control you with presence, they control you with strategic absence. And what makes this tactic terrifyingly effective is that it causes you to use your own fear and longing to control yourself. You stay silent about what hurts. You forgive without apology. You surrender your personal boundaries because you believe that if you do, you'll finally be deserving of love. But here's what you don't know. Love is never a reward for obedience. From a philosophical perspective, this is the abuse of love's language to disguise the system of domination. True love is giving, free and equal. But the narcissist version of love, if it can even be called that, is a tool to maintain power. They love to control, not to connect. They don't seek intimacy to walk beside you, but to build dependency beneath them. And one of the clearest signs of that dependency is when you start reshaping yourself to deserve something that was once given freely. When you believe that closeness is something you must earn by doing it right, you're being manipulated. When you start negotiating with your very existence, you're losing your sense of self. And when you measure your worth by someone else's presence or absence, that's no longer love, that's programming. But here's the good news. You can break free by stepping back and seeing the full pattern. Intimacy, withdrawal, coldness, then back to intimacy. You begin to realize this isn't emotional instability, it's a repeated strategy. When you understand that being untouched has nothing to do with your worth, you begin shedding the shame. When you see the system, you can dismantle it. And in that moment, something powerful happens. You begin reclaiming your control, not by controlling them, but by letting go of the need to be validated by someone who never intended to value you. You stop trying to be touched and start touching the truth within you, that you are lovable even when no one's affirming it. This isn't an easy journey, but it's a necessary one, because sex, intimacy, and love are not tools for control. They are gifts, freely given, rooted in respect. And if someone uses them as weapons, they never deserved your heart in the first place. Part 6, when love is a performance, is something that most victims of narcissists don't realize at first. Withdrawal isn't the end. It's just the setup for the next cycle of manipulation. When the sweet tactics stop working, when intimacy no longer secures your compliance, the narcissist shifts to another form of control, silence, detachment, and eventually making you believe you are the problem. This isn't random. It's a new kind of control, disguised as being tired, under pressure, or claiming you are being too demanding. But in truth, it's a shift in strategy. They stop using closeness to keep you. They start using absence. And what makes this tactic so ruthlessly effective is that it doesn't just hurt. It makes you question your worth. Am I even lovable? What you don't know is that this is the next step in a process that narcissists began long ago, emotional conditioning. They created emotional highs, intoxicating moments that felt like destiny, only to extinguish them once you began to trust. That on and off pattern rewired your brain. Like a gambler, desperate to re-experience the first big win. You begin thinking, maybe if I'm more patient, less needy, more accepting. And that's where you start to lose yourself. You're no longer the one being loved, you become the one waiting to be loved. Everything you say, do, even wear, begins to revolve around one unspoken question. Will this make them come close again? But in reality, you're being systematically conditioned. This is no longer about love. It's trauma bonding, attachment formed through pain and unpredictable reward. And as anyone who's been addicted to a toxic relationship knows, the emotional hunger becomes so intense that you'll settle for even the smallest crumbs, as long as they come from them. That's the narcissist's victory. They don't need to control you with words or force. They just need to disappear at the right moment, and you'll drown yourself in guilt, fear, and longing. Every time they come back with a glance, a message, a brief touch, it feels like resurrection. But what you don't see is that they were the ones who made you feel dead in the first place. But what's even more insidious is this. Your brain starts confusing this instability with passion. We're taught that real love should be intense, full of drama and sacrifice. So when your relationship is marked by constant uncertainty, you mistake it for depth. But it's not. It's manipulation. And it doesn't just affect your emotions. It distorts your perception of reality. You start doubting your intuition. Things that once felt clearly wrong become things you dismiss. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe they're just busy. I shouldn't make a big deal out of it. And so you begin to silence yourself, not because they demand it, but because you've learned to fear what happens when you don't. From a philosophical standpoint, this is a silent but profound violation. When someone causes you to no longer trust your own truth, they aren't just manipulating your feelings, they're manipulating your reality. And in the realm of sexuality, where trust and vulnerability are meant to flourish, this distortion hides behind a mask of passion and desire. You don't realize that what once felt like intimacy is now conditional reassurance. You're no longer connected because you want to. You do it because you're afraid not to, afraid they'll pull further away, afraid of the silence, afraid of losing what was never real to begin with. And when your body becomes the price for attention, you are no longer a lover. You're a hostage bargaining for your existence. This is love in its most corrupted form. True love doesn't demand that you sacrifice your identity to be loved. It doesn't trap you in cycles of doubt and fear. It doesn't use closeness as a tool to punish or reward. And it certainly doesn't require you to suffer silently just to maintain a fragile illusion of a relationship. You deserve a love where you are loved not because you're perfect, but because you're you. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to stay quiet to keep a false peace. And you don't need to trade your inner calm for scraps of physical affection from someone who doesn't respect you. What the narcissist doesn't want you to know is this. You're not weak for feeling hurt. You're not crazy for sensing something is wrong. And you can absolutely break free from this cycle if you're willing to look back, not through nostalgia, but through truth. You don't need to wait for them to come back. You need you to come back to your value, your clarity, and your belief that love is freedom, not captivity. Part 7, the mirror tactic. What makes narcissists truly dangerous isn't their aggression. It's how they steal you, using things that seem sweet. When intimacy is used as a tool for manipulation, when physical pleasure is weaponized to blur the lines between connection and possession, it stops being love and becomes an emotional warfare campaign wrapped in passion. On the surface, everything may look like a romantic dream, fiery kisses, long, passionate nights, movie script whispers, but underneath lies a chilling truth that survivors never forget: the feeling of abandonment while being held. The sense that you're not a beloved partner, but a character in a play the narcissist wrote long before you showed up. They didn't come to bond, they came to measure. Not the depth of love, but the extent of their emotional control over you. This is where the narcissist activates one of their most disturbing tactics, making you believe that chaos equals love. You're pulled into a cycle of love withdrawal, love withdrawal. They make you feel chosen, only to make you doubt your worth. Your brain starts to associate emotional intensity with genuine love. You begin to believe that if love isn't dramatic, it must not be real. But the truth is, intensity has never been a measure of emotional health. You're lured in like a gambler, craving one more win. You remember the moments when they looked at you like you were their entire world, touched you like you were the most precious thing they'd ever held, and you think, if I just do it right, maybe I can feel that again. So you start trading your time, your self-respect, your clarity, all to win back something that was once given freely. But now that love has become a commodity, a reward handed out only when you're obedient enough, quiet enough, compliant enough. And when they withdraw it, you don't get angry at them, you get angry at yourself, because they've conditioned you to believe that if you were better, if you loved them the right way, they'd return to who they once pretended to be. From a psychological standpoint, this is classic intermittent reinforcement, the same brain wiring as a slot machine. When affection and intimacy are given at random, you never know when it will come. So you try harder, become more addicted, and slowly erode your boundaries. It stay, not because you don't know you're being hurt, but because you believe you're fighting for love. But you're not. You're fighting to survive inside a system built to keep you dependent. The more effort you give, the colder they become. And if you react, they call you too sensitive. If you stay silent, they call you emotionally distant. No matter what you do, they hold the reins. Through inconsistency, the hard truth is, narcissists don't want you to feel secure. They want you to be anxious, unstable, and always needing them to feel like you're enough. Dig deeper and you'll find this isn't just emotional betrayal, it's a betrayal of love itself. Love is supposed to be a place of safety, connection, and affirmation, but with a narcissist, love becomes a battleground, a place where you fight just to be worthy, where silence isn't peace, it's punishment, where intimacy isn't closeness, it's a trap. Eventually, you start redefining your identity based on how often they touch you, text you, come back to you. You measure your worth by their fluctuations. And that is the collapse of selfhood. You no longer see yourself as someone inherently lovable. You see yourself as someone constantly trying not to be abandoned. But here's where something miraculous can begin: awareness. Once you realize that inconsistency is a strategy, not an emotional state, that distance is control, not your failure, you start stepping out of the game. And when you stop trying to decode the narcissist and start listening to yourself, you reclaim your power. What narcissists fear most isn't your anger, it's your non-reaction. When you no longer beg for closeness, no longer explain away their coldness as your fault, when you stand firm and say, I don't want this kind of love anymore, you shatter the cycle of dependency they spent so long building. You don't need to win their game. You don't need to walk away from the table. Real love doesn't make you question your worth daily. It doesn't make you feel like a burden. It doesn't require you to earn love. Real love begins when you no longer have to ask for permission to exist in someone's heart. Believe this, there's a kind of love that doesn't ask you to sacrifice your peace, and you deserve it. Part 8, when silence becomes a weapon. In the end, when the mask has finally fallen, the narcissist's repeated tricks no longer surprise you. One truth becomes crystal clear. You were never weak. You were someone who loved with your whole heart, with sincerity, with the belief that love could heal. But you placed that belief in the wrong person. And no, that doesn't make you foolish. It makes you admirable. Because only those capable of deep, genuine love become targets of manipulation. Narcissists don't choose the cold-hearted, the rigid, or the unfeeling. They choose you, the empathetic one, the compassionate one, the one who doesn't walk away from someone in pain. They chose you because they knew you would try to fix things. They chose you because you believed everyone could be saved. And then they used those very qualities to imprison you in a relationship where love became a double-edged sword. But now, having seen the entire cycle, from idealization to devaluation, from closeness to withdrawal, from affection to punishment, you are no longer a victim. You are awakening. Awakening from the illusion that love alone can change someone. Awakening from the belief that just a little more effort could bring everything back to how it used to be. Awakening from the lie that emotional chaos means deep love. No, chaos is not love. It is a tactic, and now you no longer play by their rules. You no longer need to react to their silence. You no longer need to chase after them when they pull away. You don't have to make yourself softer, less demanding, or more worthy, because you have always been worthy. Not in their eyes, but in the truth of who you are. The truth that no one can take away. That you matter even if they never saw it. That you are loved, even if what they gave you was counterfeit. That you are still whole, even if you were once twisted by someone who never truly saw you. And from the moment you look back and say, I no longer want to live in this cycle, you begin to step out of the darkness. You don't need an apology. You don't need them to admit fault, because freedom doesn't come from someone else acknowledging your pain. It comes from you acknowledging that you no longer deserve to carry it, and then step by step you rebuild. That's who you were. But it's someone else, stronger, wiser, and no longer easily fooled by empty promises. You'll relearn how to set boundaries, how to trust your intuition, how to love again. But this time, not to be chosen, but to choose yourself. The narcissist doesn't want you to reach this point, because the moment you stop craving their validation, the game is over. The moment you no longer react to their withdrawal, their silence, or their tactics to keep you uncertain, they lose their only weapon, your lack of awareness. But now you see the system, and truth still holds you steady. The truth that you love someone incapable of loving you back. The truth that you were betrayed, not by a moment, but by a structure. The truth that you were fooled by an illusion crafted from your own reflection. But also the truth that you can shatter it all with awareness. No one can give you back lost time, but you can take yourself back. And when you do, you'll start to notice the little things that matter. The peace of no longer having to guess someone's moods. The freedom of being yourself without meeting arbitrary expectations. The new understanding that real love isn't high drama, it's steady presence, respect, and mutual care. Don't let the pain you endured become an anchor. Let it be proof that you survived something most people never even see. And let this healing journey become sacred, not for revenge, but to ensure you never become the version they tried to mold you into. You don't need their apology. You only need to stop apologizing to yourself for having loved, for having hoped, for having believed. And if you've made it to these final lines, let this be your turning point. You are no longer in that cycle. You are stepping into a new chapter, one where you hold the pen, not the one who once controlled your story. Keep walking forward, keep awakening, and if this message touched something in your heart, please subscribe to this channel and share it with others who need the reminder that they are not crazy, not weak, and certainly not alone in a journey of reclaiming truth. You see, the journey of breaking free from a relationship with a narcissist is not a straight path. It doesn't begin with anger and end in indifference. It starts with confusion, moves through waves of self-doubt, gets lost in longing, and struggles through emotional manipulation. And then, if you're patient enough with yourself, you'll reach the light, the place where you realize that you were never the problem. You were simply a sincere heart that placed its trust in the wrong hands. You loved, you believed, you gave, not because you were naive, but because you were brave. Brave enough to open your heart, brave enough to hope, brave enough to see the light in others even when they were hiding their darkness. And that courage, that unshakable courage, is what will lead you out of the cycle of pain. The truth is, no one can save you but you. There is no fair ending with a narcissist. No apology deep enough, no admission honest enough, no movie-worthy redemption scene. The only thing you can trust is the intuition you once silenced, the self-worth you once traded away, that quiet voice inside that has always whispered, "You deserve more than this," and you do. Truly, not scraps of affection, not daily anxiety about where you stand, not crumbs of love handed out like rewards, but a love that listens, that shows up, that heals rather than harms. If you're on this journey, if you've ever been led to believe that love equals chaos, that intimacy must be earned through punishment, that you must deserve love to receive it, then this video is for you. You are not alone, you are not broken, and you can begin again with a heart stronger, wiser, and freer than it has ever been. If these words touch something inside you, hit that subscribe button, because here we don't just tell stories, we unravel them, we heal together. And never forget, you don't need anyone's validation to know your worth. You've had it all along. From the moment you chose to walk away from what no longer deserved your heart. Keep walking forward, keep awakening, and if this message touched something in your heart, please subscribe to this channel and share it with others who need the reminder that they are not crazy, not weak, and certainly not alone in a journey of reclaiming truth. You see, the journey of breaking free from a relationship with a narcissist is not a straight path. It doesn't begin with anger and end in indifference. It starts with confusion, moves through waves of self-doubt, gets lost in longing, and struggles through emotional manipulation. And then, if you're patient enough with yourself, you'll reach the light, the place where you realize that you were never the problem. You were simply a sincere heart that placed its trust in the wrong hands. You loved, you believed, you gave, not because you were naive, but because you were brave. Brave enough to open your heart, brave enough to hope, brave enough to see the light in others even when they were hiding their darkness. And that courage, that unshakable courage, is what will lead you out of the cycle of pain. The truth is, no one can save you but you. There is no fair ending with a narcissist. No apology deep enough, no admission honest enough, no movie-worthy redemption scene. The only thing you can trust is the intuition you once silenced, the self-worth you once traded away, that quiet voice inside that has always whispered, "You deserve more than this," and you do. Truly, not scraps of affection, not daily anxiety about where you stand, not crumbs of love handed out like rewards, but a love that listens, that shows up, that heals rather than harms. If you're on this journey, if you've ever been led to believe that love equals chaos, that intimacy must be earned through punishment, that you must deserve love to receive it, then this video is for you. You are not alone, you are not broken, and you can begin again with a heart stronger, wiser, and freer than it has ever been. If these words touch something inside you, hit that subscribe button, because here we don't just tell stories, we unravel them, we heal together. And never forget, you don't need anyone's validation to know your worth. You've had it all along. From the moment you chose to walk away from what no longer deserved your heart.